Hey, Mr. Summers, George Welsh here, Superintendent of Schools. It's March 25th, 2020, believe it or not, if we can remember the year at this point. I'm connected to Cañon City High School Principal Bill Summers in a form that we have available to every student in the district called Google Hangouts. And Mr. Summers, you in your office there?
I am.
You are, and I'm in my office, and so we're more than 6 feet apart. We're appropriately socially distanced, right? So our situation, just to catch parents up on where we are, as if I have to, but I don't want to assume anything, is that currently in the state of Colorado, Governor Polis has declared that in-person learning in groups of more than 10 for sure cannot take place at least until April 17th. All indications from everyone I've spoken to over the last week have been that not likely for the rest of the year. And with this understanding in mind, we've chosen not to just do nothing. We're actually focusing on our end as a school district in providing high quality learning for students for the fourth quarter of the 2019-2020 school year. And it's of utmost importance to a lot of our students at Cañon City High School right now, because we have the class of 2020 on track right now to graduate. And so we held spring break as normal, and we'd normally be back fully learning. We're on Wednesday right now of the week after spring break, but what we've actually allowed is some time for our staff to gear up for the digital instruction that they're going to be doing, very likely for the next 8 weeks. And so I'd like to interview Mr. Summers a little bit about what that might feel like for their children. And here's where I'd like to start. This is not important to just the folks out here watching the video, Mr. Summers, but I've got a daughter who's a junior in high school right now, and she's going to hopefully be a member of the class of 2021. And by golly, you got a daughter who's a senior this year. She's a member of the class of 2020, and that's a pretty interesting experience she's going to have the rest of the way out. So we both have children in school. What's this going to look like for them as a student?
Well, first of all, my staff did a tremendous job planning over the last 3 days, and the amount of effort that's gone on individually to get some of these classes up to where they need to be has been overwhelming. The name of the game here at the high school is agility. We understand that high school students already have very dynamic lives, and what's happened over the last couple of weeks doesn't change that. And so we therefore want a school day that reaches out and meets them in that dynamic environment that they can do on their time as much as possible. So what that really is going to look like is every teacher and every course is going to send out a standardized schedule at the beginning of the week, so on Mondays, to every student, and that schedule will show when they have to accomplish certain things and when and all of the other things they have to accomplish on their time. And really the only hard and fast day that we have scheduled at the high school is Mondays, where we'll have the opportunity for every teacher on all 5 blocks between 8 and 3:30 to meet with their classes on Google Hangouts and have a little bit of a two-way conversation where teachers will impart the learning targets, the assessments for the week, the daily assignments, kind of give students an overview of what's going on, take questions from students, make sure they have all their questions answered. And then the rest of the week, it'll be pretty dynamic when a student is able to do things on their time. And then there'll also be plenty of opportunities for students to reach out to those teachers one-on-one throughout the remainder of the week on virtual contact, office hours, if you will. Talk to the teacher, talk to a paraprofessional if they need to, and get some help with work throughout the rest of the week.
So I hear you say some key things here. Number one is there'll sort of be a class schedule, definitely Mondays, and Monday will set the table for what a student's to do the rest of the week. And so for sure there will be a contact point, student to teacher, and maybe even a whole class through a Google Hangout like we're experiencing right now, where they'll have that interaction. Then they're going to be assigned work, might get some direct instruction, be assigned some work, and then they would have opportunities all week long to engage with their teachers to get specific support about the lesson if they're a little confused. And I assume there's also going to be an opportunity for kids to engage each other in the work through the form of Google Hangouts as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Matter of fact, it came to my attention yesterday that there was the potential that students couldn't use Google Hangout to contact one another because of a limitation on their Chromebook. And what I could tell you is that my daughter and a friend of hers tested that for me at my house last night, and they absolutely can Google Hangout with each other. It works just fine, and I would recommend that they do that. I'll also want to add the point is that one of the things we've really stressed at the high school is that this should not be about a bunch of screen time. We're not trying to tie students to assignments that are only via their Chromebooks. I've really encouraged our teachers across the entire school to make sure that they have assignments where students have the opportunity to get outside, to get away from the Chromebook and get some work done.
Great. And so on that, then, what our daughters, what kind of responsibility will be on their end as this learning goes forward?
Well, and that's a good question. And what I would say, especially for those members of the class of 2020, if you were on track to graduate going into the fourth quarter, there is no reason based on what's happening that you will not be graduating by the end of the fourth quarter. We're going to give you every opportunity. We're going to work hard to make sure that if you're having a connectivity problem or a problem, getting understanding the work, that we're going to get you the help. We're going to help get you the connectivity that you need at your home, if that's the case. And really what I would say is if you put the work in over this fourth quarter, you'll graduate, assuming you were on track to begin with. And so really that's what it looks like. I know that there may be individual circumstances that come up, and as always, we remain flexible and willing to work with you on those.
Yeah, but still the responsibility is going to be on the student. It's going to be offered, and just like happens on a daily basis, if they come in and they engage in the learning and they do the work, they'll move ahead. And I've been there, and I know you have too. If there's a kid who, without good reason, doesn't move forward and collect the remaining credits that they need to collect, they may not earn their diploma by the end of the semester. You spoke about so one of the things that I'm concerned about at some level is we're going to have 3,600 plus Chromebooks out in the community between staff and students, and every once in a while something's going to go down, either that or maybe an internet connection. What can folks do if they're dealing with an inability to stay connected to the instruction?
Well, I think there's a couple different things they can do depending on their situation. First and foremost, if they're experiencing a hardware, software problem with the Chromebook, I think getting in touch with the district's technology department through their hotline is a very good first step. That'll help.
And when we post this video and also send it by email, we'll have the hotline number attached to that, okay?
That sounds great. And so that's a good way of troubleshooting the first thing. If it's a connectivity problem, you're having issues with internet connectivity, certainly what I'd like students to do is get a hold of their counselors. Their counselors are ready to receive those calls. I'm going to work with them to make sure that we either get you out a hotspot or help you get in touch with local internet providers and get you the either free service. Of course, Mr. Welsh has also offered to help out with some of the costs maybe associated with some of the services involved with free service charges involved with that. So in other words, if you want to be connected, we will do everything within our power to make that happen. And I think we have some really good resources to do that.
Great. And one other thing is anyone who has a device at home that can run the Chrome operating system, desktop sitting in the corner, an old laptop. I know a lot of high school kids have some kind of device for themselves. They can still engage in this as well through the Chrome browser if their Chromebook happens to be down for a little bit. So mom and dad, guardians, don't let your kids say, I can't learn, because encourage them to have a little bit more grit in making sure that they can access their learning is what I suggest. So you already covered the issue on graduation requirements. There's no reason why if a student at Cañon City High School, as of the end of the third quarter of the 2019-2020 year, shouldn't be able to graduate if they complete and pass all their future courses. We're good with that. Now, there may be some kids who have to do some credit recovery on top of all this, and that's still going to be available.
Yeah, credit recovery classes are running as per normal. The teachers that are involved with that are signing kids up as we speak. They'll be in contact with students who are enrolled in credit recovery, and it'll look a little different. Instead of sitting in the class having a teacher over your shoulder helping you do that, you'll be at home doing those Edgenuity credit recovery courses. And if you have questions and problems, the teachers that are assigned will be available virtually to help you out.
Okay, so the ball's in the court of the students at this point. If they want to graduate, they do the work, they'll get there. The question I'm getting from everyone is, what about traditional school activities? We're thinking things like, performances, concerts, the prom, and the big one, of course, is graduation ceremony. What do you know about that?
Well, as every high school in the state, we're governed by what the Colorado High School Athletics and Activities Association has to say. And so that's one of our governing boards. And one of the things that's already happened there is that they've canceled all musical performances for the rest of the year. Of course, that's a big hit for our students, and we're involved in the musical, involved in the choir and band programs. However, what I will say is that we have some incredible teachers who are already thinking along the lines of, how can I make this up to students? I talked to Mr. Albright yesterday, and he's already thinking about, how do I bring seniors back in June if I'm able to help them, to have them participate in our summer camp and do one final performance that way. So there's a lot of good thinking going on along those lines. When we move into things like prom and graduation, yes, most likely we're not going to be doing those the traditional way this year. But what I would say is that we're very open to ways to honor students, and whether that's something that happens when everything returns to normal, whether that's later in the summer or even before the kids go off to college in the fall, we'd be open to all suggestions. And anybody who has any good ideas, please let me know. But we're definitely thinking along those lines. As a parent myself of a student class of 2020, I'm definitely on board for making sure we honor this class.
Yeah, that's a real tough situation. But what I encourage us all to do is be patient and thoughtful. And as a divorcee, a parent who at times had to celebrate Christmas on New Year's, what I find at this age in life, when I go back and look at those pictures that we took when we held Christmas around New Year's, it looks like Christmas to me. And I just suspect if we held a graduation sometime in the summer and you guys take some great pictures and you have some great family gatherings when you're allowed to, that 10 years out, it'll still look like graduation. We'll do the best we can to make sure that something can happen. So real big issue, I think, for high school students, might even be for some of our middle school students, is going to be that there may be some households in which a high school student who has some younger siblings is really going to be tied with multiple responsibilities. They're going to be tied with the responsibility of doing their schooling going forward, and they may also be tied with responsibilities for babysitting and supporting some of their younger siblings. I would like to encourage parents to have their older sibling to actually support and tutor and help the younger child with all the technology tools that are going to come into your household thanks to doing this digital learning. Mr. Summers, any way we might be able to incentivize that or reward students for doing a good job with that?
Absolutely. We've started kicking around the idea of giving high school credit to the high schoolers who are participating in tutoring their younger students. After all, that's a valuable educational experience to be a tutor. And so my counselors and I have been working on some format for how we could document and record those kinds of opportunities. Parents probably getting you involved to be the signature of this happened and it happened in a reasonable way. And then looking to award high school credit for it, which may be a way to, for some of those kids out there that are a bit credit deficient, to get to graduation too, by the way.
Outstanding, outstanding. That's a good outside the box thinking. I appreciate that. Some final piece. If you're a music student, chances are you left your instrument in the band room. Some students we know may have left their Chromebooks at high school during spring break, and then depending on the coursework you're taking, there might be some tools or materials you need to do that work. How is that going to work for students and parents in terms of getting the tools in the hand they need to do that work?
Well, yeah, George, we're definitely taking a look at those options at the high school. Obviously, we're a very big, dynamic school with a lot of programs. And one of the things that we did consider is trying to limit the amount of trips that a student has to make to the high school in order to pick things up. Of course, were we to do it all at once, it would probably be an unsafe experience. Too many kids and too many staff all here at once. So we are going to try to divide that up a little bit. And unfortunately, that may mean multiple trips to the school. We are also doing our best to make sure that all of those experiences coincide with food delivery or food pickup here at the high school, which is going on robustly. Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, you're getting the individual meals from food services. And then, of course, Tuesdays and Thursdays is the dry goods backpack program that's coming off of our front steps as well. That was a spectacular first day yesterday, more than 250 bags of food delivered to people. And so what we're thinking is if we can coincide with that food delivery, either you or your student could come to the school, pick up their trombone and pick up a bag of food at the same time, and that'll help out.
Great. And the message I want to give to the community is you can come to campus uninvited in the form of participating in the community feeding program that we're doing. That's breakfast and lunch distribution. Actually, 2 days of breakfast and lunch distribution. Actually, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Tuesday and Thursday is the backpack program, or a box of dry goods that might support a family to get them through some tough times here. Those you can come uninvited. To try to get access to the school to get these other materials we're talking about. You need to be invited to do that. And what Mr. Summers sounds like he's described here is he may set it up so that you can come, you can get a couple sack meals to last a couple of days, and you can also maybe pick up the items your student will need. Your child will need to be successful moving forward. So Mr. Summers, you have one of the favorite sayings I've used anymore in education, and you got it from your experience in the Air Force. It's the 85% rule. 85% rule is if you feel like you're at an 85% level, that a mission or a project may be successful, you don't wait till you get to 100% because you'll never get there and you'll never do the work. Do you feel like we're at the 85% level here?
I really do. And I was just amazingly impressed by the staff who came together at the high school and got us there. I had my doubts to be able to do something so big in such a limited amount of time. But of course, my staff has come together and done a tremendous job. I think we're there. And by the way, I also think that we're going to have changes in the next 8 weeks. So stay tuned for those, because as we learn, we're just going to want to get better. And then we'll get those changes out to you when they happen.
All right. And as you said, the reason 85% is because once you get in the middle of the mission, things are going to happen. You're going to have to adjust to. And what we can tell parents in the community right now and students is we're going to do this for about 8 days, and you're going to see a survey coming your way. And we encourage parents to stay close enough to the learning right now with their children to be able to give us honest feedback. Is it too hard? Is it too easy? Is it relevant enough to what they might need for their life? And we want the students to answer the same, because if some patterns become clear from that survey, we'll make adjustments midway as we move forward. So, Mr. Summers, for you, I can't thank you enough for your leadership. This has been an amazing chunk of time, and I know that for the last 2 weeks you've been a little bit under the weather yourself, so you've been powering through this. I'm not feeling completely up to par yourself, and from the bottom of my heart, I thank your staff. I was feeling pretty alone last week. We all were probably feeling pretty alone last week. But when our teachers started showing up in these Google Hangouts environments and started planning for this instruction, my spirits have been lifted. I think it's an opportunity that our kids are going to value for the rest of their life. And by golly, we're going to make sure it works. So I'm going to chime off of the session, and hopefully we can get this video out to the community to see what we've got in store for their kids. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Welsh.
Thanks a bunch.